If you struggle with shyness or social anxiety, check out our free No BS training course with actual useful advice you can do from home. None of that just get out there nonsense. The link is in the description below. For now, let's get to today's question.
Shyness stems from a fear of rejection. A person who is shy often sees reaching out to interact with others as a stressful endeavor. Shyness is really a character trait of people with introverted personalities. These are the people who keep to themselves and spend more time in thinking than talking. I wouldn't go as far to say that shyness is a genetic trait, however I can say that it's a character trait that develops throughout childhood. You can see this demonstrated where some children have no problem talking to other kids their age, while others try to avoid social interaction as often as they can. Shyness starts from a person's childhood. The poem below is very accurate. I grew up very shy and timid because of fear caused by my father. He was a good provider of the family, but he was very physically and emotionally abusive. As I grew up, I believed he was more evil than good. In order to survive, I emulated my mother. I would not talk very much. It took many years of therapy to gain my self-esteem. I used to tell my mother to leave him, but she said she did not have the strength to survive without him. She said that was her cross to bear in her choice. Once I went off to college and graduated, I left. I would visit occasionally, to be with my mother, but not often. When my father was dying in the hospital, I asked him, why was he so angry and mean all the time? He explained that he learned that behavior from his father. Children learn what they live by. Dorothy Law Nolte, Ph.D. If children live with criticism, they learn to condemn. If children live with hostility, they learn to fight. If children live with fear, they learn to be apprehensive. If children live with pity, they learn to feel sorry for themselves. If children live with ridicule, they learn to feel shy. If children live with jealousy, they learn to feel envy. If children live with shame, they learn to feel guilty. If children live with encouragement, they learn confidence. If children live with tolerance, they learn patience. If children live with praise, they learn appreciation. If children live with acceptance, they learn to love. If children live with approval, they learn to like themselves. If children live with recognition, they learn it is good to have a goal. If children live with sharing, they learn generosity. If children live with honesty, they learn truthfulness. If children live with fairness, they learn justice. If children live with kindness and consideration, they learn respect. If children live with security, they learn to have faith in themselves and in those about them. If children live with friendliness, they learn the world is a nice place in which to live. I strongly suspect that there is little or no genetic component, at least if you ascribe to the view that the brain is essentially, from an emotional point of view, largely a tabula rasa. In my case, I believe I only became very shy when I first became aware, at around the age of 5, that I was physically different to everybody around me. I have an obvious facial disfigurement and was mildly taunted for it in the way that young children have, perhaps innocently, marking difference. This persisted until I was into my late teens, when I had the good fortune to run into somebody of the opposite sex, who was prepared to defend my appearance in the face of unthinking adults or adolescents, often with threats of violence. My ego subsequently went down 99 points on the Donbushy scale and has continued going down ever since. My God, she was so beautiful. Being shy is, at root, a personal appraisal of one's own self-worth and other people's behavior or attitudes are of great importance in judging that self-worth for oneself. One bad experience can, and does, ruin lives with, I suspect, little or no input from one's genes. I belong to a school called CMS in Lucknow, India, which I think is the best school when talked about bringing out personality of students. I have been standing on stage from Class 1 when our school assembly had students from Class 1 to 12 with 45 sections per class, and the range was 4,000 per section. Now calculate and think of the strength. We have been participating in extempore, jam, model class presentation, annual functions and student parliament and whatnot. When you have face mic and stage too early and made gazillions of mistakes in childhood, you grow up as much more confident person. I think at least a large part of it depends how you were raised, or various experiences, particularly in early life. My brother was a precocious child, in the best possible way, and it seemed his teachers didn't like that. He just loved to read, and my mom actively encouraged learning from a young age. Sometimes he'd talk about something his teachers didn't know about. This was when he was maybe 6, and they'd tell him in front of the whole class that he was wrong. He's now a 24-year-old with crippling shyness and an incredibly low self-esteem. In contrast, I'm not shy at all, so I'm almost certain his experiences early on in school largely shaped him to be that way. According to most professionals in the field of psychology, shyness is not an inherited trait. The principal reason you cannot be born shy is that shyness is characterized by 3 major features: excessive self-consciousness, excessive negative self-evaluation, and excessive negative self-preoccupation. All 3 characteristic features of shyness involve a sense of self, and our sense of self does not develop until approximately 18 months of age. Therefore, since we are not born with a sense of self, we cannot be born shy. As we are growing up, we can develop shyness due to the amount of exposure we have to people outside the home or close family circle. If children are not exposed to people outside their circle of familiarity, comfort zone, during their first few years of life, they are likely to be more introverted once they start school, and it can take time for them to come out of their shell, so to speak, and feel comfortable around new acquaintances. However, I strongly believe that events/occurrences that take place during our childhood, adolescent, and teenage years are the #1 cause of an individual developing shyness as a personality trait. I developed shyness at a very early age and was well into my adult years before I was able to overcome it and become a more outgoing person who was no longer afraid to say hello to a stranger on the street, have conversations with new or unfamiliar people, or even go out shopping alone. I was reared by my grandparents, and led a very sheltered life as I was growing up. I was allowed to have only a very limited social life outside of the school environment, and did not have the opportunity to develop the same social and interpersonal skills that most children gain through interactions with their peers and other adult influences outside the home as they are growing up. This had a direct, negative impact on my ability to comfortably interact with new people. Additionally, certain events from my adolescent and teenage years left me emotionally scarred and fed the negative self-image I had and, to a degree, still have to this day. My shyness came from an intense fear of being rejected or ostracized by others.